Another month of basketball has come and gone, and as we progress further, we're starting to see outliers get exposed and teams begin to revert back to normalcy after any abnormal trends that popped up early on. The season started off with a ridiculous amount of upsets, surprises, and disappointments, but now that we're a quarter of the way through the season, we have a bigger sample size to judge things off of. This brings us to the topic of today's video, where we'll be discussing the 3 biggest winners and the 3 biggest losers in the NBA from the month of November. These are teams that showed glimpses of either impressive or disappointing play in October, and then in November they either continued down that path or turned things around for the better. Before we start though, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as all support is very much appreciated. Now with that being said, let's begin. We'll start off with the first winner on the list today, which happens to be the Sacramento Kings. It has been a very long time since the Kings organization has been on a list like this for a positive reason, and based on how their season was going early on, them being where they are now was the furthest thing from a guarantee. They lost their first 4 games of the season, and when the month of November began, they were sitting near the bottom of the standings, but they then won 10 of their next 15 games and are now working their way up to the point where they're in 6th place in the Western Conference standings, and they've done it by producing like one of the best offenses in the entire league. They currently rank as the 4th best offense in the NBA, and they've gotten there because De'Aaron Fox is playing the best basketball of his career, Domantas Sabonis is embracing his role as the number 2 and plays selflessly within the flow of the offense, Kevin Huerter and Malik Monk have been fantastic additions to the team, and together they all push the pace to constantly apply pressure. What worries me is that they are still a bottom 5 ranked defense in the league, but they can overcome their woes on the other end as long as they continue to put up the amount of points that they're scoring, so this could be the year that the Kings' playoff drought comes to an end. Now flipping over to our first loser of the month today, we have the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Timberwolves made a lot of noise this offseason when they aggressively went out and acquired Rudy Gobert from the Utah Jazz. They were in the play-in tournament last season, and clearly they wanted to progress further, but the price that they paid for Gobert was only ever going to make sense and prove to be worth it if it made them championship contenders, which was never a guarantee. Yes, his presence has improved their overall defense compared to where they ranked a year ago, but the team's offense is worse than it was last year, and the team is currently below 500 with a record of 10 wins and 11 losses. So needless to say, championship contention is still not quite in their sights. On top of that, their starting 5 with the Twin Towers lineup of Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns has been one of their worst lineups in terms of net rating, which again isn't a good sign early on when you have so much invested into both of those players. The way that they are constructed is clunky, and there are no obvious solutions, and because of that, they're one of the league's biggest losers early on. Coming up next is our second winner on this list, which is the Philadelphia 76ers. This is probably the most surprising name on the winners list from the past month because early on in November, it looked like the sky was falling in Philadelphia. The team lost 3 of their first 4 games and had as slow of a start as any team that came in with lofty expectations. Then, not long after, James Harden suffered an injury that is holding him out for about a month, Tyrese Maxey suffered an injury holding him out for a similar amount of time, and Joel Embiid suffered a small injury that caused him to miss a little over a week. So in that stretch, they were without any of their 3 best players, and everyone presumed that a losing streak was on its way to set them back even further. Instead, though, this stretch very well may have been the best thing that possibly could have happened to them, because without those 3, the bench players stepped in to fill the void and embraced bigger roles, gaining more confidence and proving that they could be trusted moving forward. De'Anthony Melton, Shake Milton, George Niang, Paul Reed, and a few others have all been playing some of their best basketball, and that's the type of confidence that can inspire the rest of the team to trust them moving forward. The Sixers have won 4 of their last 5 games despite all of those key players missing, and have even moved up into the top 5 of the Eastern Conference standings, so when they get Maxey and Harden back, they should be ready to kickstart an even bigger run. Now back to the losers column, the second team on this list is the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls, like the Timberwolves, are another example of a team that aggressively went all in on the present by shipping out assets in exchange for moves intended to help them win now. Instead, though, these moves have backfired on them and in turn have vastly limited their upside for the foreseeable future. It's crazy to think that for a considerable period last season, the Bulls were in first place in the East, because at the moment this year, they currently have a record of 9 wins and 11 losses and are in 12th place in the Eastern Conference standings. This is a team as mediocre as it gets, and they're built around 2 players progressing well into their 30s in age and a 27-year-old who is now demonstrating worrisome knee problems. Vucevic's best days are behind him, and his woeful defense and regressing offensive production have been hard to ignore. DeMar DeRozan was never going to be able to maintain his MVP-like production from a year ago, and Zach LaVine's efficiency has tanked. On top of all of this, Lonzo Ball still hasn't even been able to return to the court for them, so all in all, they were an easy selection for this list. Now for the final team in the winners column of this video, we have the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers are looking to be well ahead of schedule in regard to their rebuild because they entered the season constantly being discussed as a team ready to trade away guys like Buddy Hield and Miles Turner, and while they still may end up doing so, in the meantime, they're all working incredibly well together with the team's young core of talent. Tyrese Halliburton is performing like one of the best point guards in the league regardless of age, as he's scoring about 20 points per game while also leading the NBA in assists, dishing out over 11 per night. Benedict Mathurin is coming off the bench producing like a 6th Man of the Year candidate and Rookie of the Year candidate, scoring 19 points per game. They're finding some hidden gems such as Andrew Nembhard, who is shooting 43% from 3 and just hit a game winner against the Lakers, and as Kevin Durant has said in a recent interview after the Pacers beat them, they play a good brand of basketball. They play together, they compete hard every night on both ends, and they look like they're having fun, and the fact that they're also in 4th place in the Eastern Conference standings right now could make them the biggest winner of all. And finally, the last loser of today's video is the Atlanta Hawks. You'll notice a trend for the teams in the losers column because the Hawks are yet another team who aggressively spent big to acquire Dejounte Murray in the offseason, but their return on investment just has not quite been there. The Hawks were the 2nd best offense in the NBA last season, but their defensive woes held them back, so the thought process was that by going out and acquiring a star player who happens to excel defensively like Dejounte Murray does, it would help propel them forward. Instead, the move has done nothing but tank their once dominant offense all the way down to being ranked 22nd in the league. Losing players like Kevin Huerter and Danilo Gallinari were bigger losses than originally thought. The backcourt of Trae Young and Dejounte Murray are still trying to figure out ways to work together, despite both naturally being ball dominant previously, and they're currently on a 3-game losing streak playing some uninspiring basketball. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below who you think the biggest winners and losers are from November. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.